Kellie Speaks Talk Show. It's your girl, Coach Kellie. I'm here each and every Monday on Listen Vision Live. I wanted to just begin and just do a quick recap of what we talked about on yesterday. With so many people who had questions and comments about the millennial mindset. So I'll give about 10 minutes to go over that so that we can have an understanding the mindset of a millennial and how we think. I am the first part of the millennial. I was born in 1981, and one thing about the millennial mindset is that we spend a lot of attention on ourselves. That's just one of those things. Our parents, we came from a generation where our parents were one of the first generations to be able to give us everything that we wanted. They were able to fund every vision that we wanted, that we had in place. And so you find what a lot of people would say, that millennials are often, they say that they're entitled, or they have a princess or a prince mentality where they believe that everything is about them, that everything revolves around them. And oftentimes in the workplace, it can be very difficult to hire that person and keep them, or there is a revolving door. And so I talked about that on last week, and you can go and catch the recap on www.listenvision.com. You can go also on to Coach Kellie Speaks on YouTube, and you'll have this opportunity to see it. My week was amazing. I like to start my week off and just talk about what happened to me last week. And, it was such a great week for me. I had such a awesome opportunity to talk to and pray for so many different people who were dealing with different challenges. And I find that right now in our climate, that there are a whole lot of things that's going on in today's society that can weigh on you over time. We see that a lot of people have a disdain for our president. A lot of us are dealing with the lack of funding in our business. And so today I wanted to share with you my own personal journey and things that I've went through in business over the last 18 years. And this year for me was a very challenging year, not because of the fact that I didn't know what I was doing, but because of the social climate that we're in. People are afraid to shop as much as they did before. People are depending more on credit cards than they have ever in the history of society. People are taking advances, payday loans, you name it. There's so many ways that people are suffering, financially. And so on today, I wanted to give you some steps that I personally use to pay off $55,000 worth of debt, with $50,000 worth of debt. So one of the things that I really encourage people to do is have an understanding that, I gotta fix something. Put my coat here. Is to have an understanding that debt freedom is a choice, is a decision. You have to make that choice and that decision that it's something that you're going to take seriously. It's your life. And I believe that your money is your life, whether you realize it or not. And it's nothing worse than being in a financial situation where you cannot pull from any resolution when you're in a emergency situation. So the first thing that I would encourage us to do would be to find out where the holes are, understanding where the waste is. I have a diagram because I like to use analogies in order for me to help it to make sense. I like to give actual examples, and I like to give I'm a kinetic learner, so I learn by visualization as well, and I like to touch it. So one thing that I was thinking about on my way up here, because I'm right here right here on Howard University campus, and I see a lot of the older buildings are being rehabilitated. I see a lot of people flipping houses, and a lot of the storefronts they're under construction. And so a lot of people, when I am helping them to build their credit or rebuild their credit through my econ system, and I actually post my website onto my Facebook. I think I did. Let me make sure that I did. For those of you who are watching, I want to make sure that you're able to go onto my website. I actually pinned it onto my Facebook, which is Coach Kellie myecon.net. It's a financial services business that I joined. And one thing I love so much about it is we talk about income shifting. And a lot of people don't understand, or they're not aware of how to shift your money, or they don't understand how to or locate what the problem is in your finances. So if I would go into a home, if I would go into a building that I wanted to rehab, the first thing I would do is I would look at the blueprint. I would look at the original layout of the house, and I would look at what needs to be fixed. I would look at if there was any leaks, if it was any plumbing issues. I'm going to check and make sure that the floor is sturdy, the foundation is solid. I'm going to look at the cosmetic things, but I'm not going to paint a wall when there may be a wall that I may need to take out. And the same thing it is with your credit report. You want to make sure that you pull your credit right away. You don't want to start just aimlessly paying things off and not understanding what is draining the most amount of your credit score. So one of the things that I do is I ask you to go on to freecreditreport.com, because you can get a credit report for free. It's no need of paying for a credit report when you can, in fact, get one for free. And so, and I do it January, the beginning of each year. I go and I pull my credit, and it's amazing to me that a lot of people that I talk to have not seen their credit report in years. And for me, if you're not in a place of dumping your debt, then it's almost like, or not knowing what's on your credit, you're doing yourself a disservice. Like a lot of times I hear and I see people, they'll go and apply for a loan and they haven't even looked at their credit. And I think that you should know. I think that knowing your score, it can help you to negotiate your rates better. I know for myself, when I purchased my home, my credit was great. And so because I knew that my credit was great, I was willing and able to negotiate my rate. And so one thing that I found out is that a lot of times with lenders, they will tell you that you are approved at a 7% interest rate, when in all actuality you were actually approved at a 5%, and they actually can get a commission based on the extra 2% or the extra 2 points. So your two points, you may not seem like that's a lot, but for a mortgage, it could be a difference of say $300 or $400. So you want to make sure that you are looking at real numbers. And I think a lot of people are on Credit Karma. And I think one thing about Credit Karma, no, I love Credit Karma, but I also believe that some things on Credit Karma are not 100% accurate. And so I've had people use their Credit Karma score, and they'll go apply for a house, and on Credit Karma they'll have a 680, when in fact their Equifax will show as like a 630. So you want to make sure that you are looking directly at the credit report, or that you contact each bureau, and I'll go into all of that, because I think a lot of the verbiage that I use when I'm talking about personal finance. People don't know, so I'll kind of break it down in a minute. But let me just finish out this point that the first thing you want to do as you would if you were building a house or rebuilding a house or refurbishing a house, you want to see the blueprint. And so the only way I am able to help you is that I look at your credit report and see what things that are on there that could be affecting you positive or negative. And so to my Facebook audience, if you have any questions for me, feel free, and if you have any questions concerning personal finances, debt, understanding the debt snowball, which I'll get into in a moment, where the first thing you would do is you want to define where you are. Because for me, just to get into my personal story of how I pay off $50K in debt in 2 years, which it seemed impossible when I began the journey of debt freedom. It was very, very challenging because it was essentially not the amount of money that I was making, but it was the amount of money I was spending. And that's the thing that will connect you from being debt free or continuing to have debt and pay interest and find yourself getting payday loans and find yourself getting credit cards, Capital One credit cards that are $200 or $500. You're never going to get to where you want to be. If you want to have a fully loaded American Express, or if you want to have a for so many people that I've helped them go from having just the standard, Capital One $500 card to now owning a American Express or a Visa that doesn't have a lot of fees. Because what happens a lot of times with credit card companies, what they do is they'll give you a card, but they'll also give you a application fee. And I know First Premier is one of those companies. Capital One is one of those companies where they'll approve you instantaneously, but then they'll take $99 off the top for your yearly annual fee. And then if you're ever late, they'll have you believing that your APR is, say, 7%. And then by the end of it, you end up with a 24% because you were late. So you want to make sure that you're reading the fine print of every credit card that you get. Because I know that a lot of times when you go to a store and you're at Macy's or you're, I almost said Hex. I know that's like super old. But when you go into these different retail stores and they have these individual accounts, a lot of times you're not even able to read the small print because you're more concerned with getting 20% off or whatever incentive they offer you, and you don't know until you actually go home and you get your first statement and you realize that you just paid 24%. So you want to be mindful and very careful as to how you are regulating everything. I had a young lady who hired me to help her. And let me just plug, through my econ, there is a DIY, which is do-it-yourself credit monitoring system, where there is an actual coach that will help you, and not just coach you, but I will also coach you as well. But it's worth a shot in investing in yourself and understanding financial education. Now, when we're in school, when we go to grade school and you go to high school, oftentimes there's no financial education class. So either you have really good parents that teach you personal finances, or they don't know, and you find yourself, first day at college, you see the credit card companies, they'll walk up to you, or they'll have booths at these colleges or these job fairs, and they're offering you, say, $5,000 worth of debt. And you think that it's the best thing because you need to eat, you need to survive, you may need to buy a car, and you have your day-to-day essential things that you need. the way they sell it to you is that it's something that you can use in case of an emergency. But oftentimes people find themselves thinking that, you know what, I'm hungry. That's an emergency. Well, a credit card was never really set up for you to use it as, well, I'm going to go and buy a pair of shoes. That's not really an emergency, because now you bought a pair of shoes that was $100, but at the end of the day, you spent $200 with the fees. So being very, very, very strategic about it, and just going back to the whole entire mission of the show is to really talk to the millennial mindset, understanding business, understanding the foundation, as you would if you go to building a house. You want to make sure that you have a positive foundation. And a lot of times we start businesses without having a firm foundation. And the first foundation in a business is really trademark. You know, I had a young lady who, it was funny because I was looking up my website and I saw this young lady's website, and it was similar to exactly what I was doing. In fact, her name was similar. She did not do her research enough to know that it was already branded. It was already trademarked. So be mindful and careful, and make sure that you have a strong foundation in whatever it is that you're doing. Because as a business owner, it's nothing worse than getting a great God-inspired idea and your credit is bad. The first thing you want to do is make sure that your affairs are in order. You want to make sure, and that was something that I didn't do. Like, when I started my business, I didn't know about branding, and I didn't know about trade name, and I didn't know about all those things. I just had this great idea. I had this great idea and this great concept that I wanted to have a business with all things beauty. And it wasn't until different trials and tribulations that I went through that caused me to lose money. And so not understanding what proper insurance I needed as an entrepreneur, not understanding that there are people that'll come and try to sue you in your business. And so being in debt and not having financial literacy will cause you to lose. Even though you have a winning plan, it's easy to lose when you don't have a winning plan in action, because talent is not enough. You know, being super talented is not enough. Taking a cute selfie is just not enough. It's not enough to make it in today's society. Yes, you can brand yourself. Yes, you can, tweet about your life. But if you're in debt, it doesn't matter. And I had a young lady reach out to me who she sent me pictures of her home, and it was a fabulous home. And I told her, I says, well, when you're getting a home, you want to make sure that you have an emergency fund. Don't just save up enough money to get your down payment and you haven't saved up enough money to at least have 2 to 3 mortgages in the bank. And so if you have a vision board and you have a house, and that say the house is $400,000, you want to begin to practice paying that mortgage. So if your mortgage now is $1,500 and you have this expectation that you want to live in a house that will cost you $3,500 to live in comfortably, now is the time to save an additional $2,000, because it will help you in the long run to not have to shut a business down. And the average business shuts down in 24 months, not because it's not a great idea, not because they don't have customers or clients. It's simply because of proper planning. And so being introduced to my econ, which is short for my economy, because I believe that the world's economy should not dictate what's coming in my account and what's going out of my account. When you have high volume sales and your expenses are high, you're stuck. You continue to plateau in your business. But when you have high volume sales and you have low expenditures, then you have this place where you are financially, there's a pocket of profit. And your profit is stolen when you are not able to prepare. And so I remember time and time again, I will go into the same spot. I will have savings, but I have debt. How does that make sense? So I remember watching an episode of Susie Orman, And it was a young lady who was talking about her investments, and at that time she had like $30,000 worth of investments in her account. And Susie Owens told her, well, do you have any debt? And she was like, yeah, I have $60,000 worth of student loan debt. And so Susie told her, well, what's the point of having a investment account that's yielding, 1% when your loans are yielding 8 and 9 and sometimes 12, 13%. So you're really being counterproductive in your personal finances. The best thing to do is to get rid of debt. Now, one thing I suggest is that you have an immediate emergency fund, which is 10 weeks of saving $100. I'll say it again. 10 weeks of saving $100. Now, it's going to be tough, but most people spend about $80 to $100 per week in miscellaneous things, such as going to get a cup of coffee, maybe 2 cups of coffee and a muffin, eating out for lunch, possibly eating out for dinner, weekend movies, concert tickets, birthday parties, all of these different things that could seem to be essential and necessary, they're eating away at your financial stability. So, case in point, make sure that you have your immediate savings account that you cannot touch, $1,000. And so today I want to start a campaign of a 10-week emergency fund campaign. And so for all of you that are on live on my Facebook, I want you to share this video, and in a comment box, I want you to type in 110 times. 110 times. I want you to do that because that will set up your immediate emergency fund. It's 10 weeks, and the next 10 weeks, we are going to come together and we're going to save for our immediate emergency fund, okay? Thank you so much. If you have any questions or concerns, or if you have any immediate questions about financial literacy, I want you to post that, and then that would be great because I'm sure there's some questions out there, okay? And so understanding and locating the holes. So for the next 30 days, I'm encouraging you that you write down what you're spending. I want you to write down what you're spending, and I want you to take the opportunity to see where your money is going. I kind of summed it up and said that a lot of the money that's wasted is wasted in things that we do not need. It's not our immediate needs. It's more so like just the little things. And sometimes you can look at yourself and at the end of the week or at the end of the month, you'll say, I don't know where my money went. And if that's you, raise your hand. If that's you, I want you to be honest because I'm going to inbox you and see what I can do to try to help you. I'm giving you some tips because I do believe that if we're going to be advancing this year, if this is a year of unity and we're collaborating through collaborative efforts, I want to personally collaborate with you and help you to get out of this cycle. Now, because of the person that I am, I love to share my own personal stories. I like to go into my life to see how I can identify things that I did that can actually help you in the long run. So one of the things that I decided to do when I just said, enough is enough. I'm tired of, ignoring the phone calls. I'm tired of sending debt collectors to voicemail. I'm just tired of the system. I'm tired of running. I want to be able to answer my phone no matter if I know the number, whether it's a 1-800 number. And nowadays, a lot of collection agencies, they actually have like 202, 301, and 703 numbers. So you can't really escape them. And so I see people who are just avoiding answering their phone, which for me is not living your best life and living in freedom. You're not living in freedom when you are running from or paying Peter to pay Paul. And so another thing that I do believe that can really, really cause you to bleed out, if I can say it, because that's what it's called. Like when you don't have enough and you have things coming out of your account and you end up with fees. Bank fees is a booming business. I know with certain companies, they'll give you, overdraft protection. They'll give you, these small lines of credit because they know that the average person is not going to have discipline. So they have these fees in place, these late fees in place. And you have to ask yourself, am I one of those people who have had several late fees in the last year or two? And say, okay, if I had just 2 or 3 of those late fees, what could I have done with that money? And ask yourself that question and see, okay, what can I do? And I was talking to my mom yesterday, and she was sharing with me on how my pastor was talking about seasons. And seasons are managed and maintained. They can be missed. They could be misinterpreted or misunderstood. And so when you're in a season today, to say I want to be an entrepreneur or I am an entrepreneur, but for whatever reason, I don't have the money to invest like I want to. And I think when I sit down with potential clients and I go through my survey of what is holding you back, most people say the same thing. I need to pay. I haven't been able to, invest in my business. I want to, write some books, but I just don't have the money. Well, in fact, you do. The money is there. You have to search for the money. Another thing that I did was I couponed. I couponed for the things that I could, which was a lot of laundry detergent, air fresheners, things that I use already in the house. And I got on Retail Me Not, lowermybills.com, and I began to find the money. Like on Jerry Maguire, the guy said, show me the money. He's like, show me the money. Show me where the money is. There's a hidden money that you are wasting every single day, whether it's just not cutting off your water when you are brushing your teeth, or if it's, I keep getting red light tickets. Like I'm fine. There's so many things that can come in that will just take your money slowly. So let's get to a point of having this understanding that if I just get up early and make my lunch, I can save myself an additional $100. Now that $100 can go towards one of the collections. So if you know that you have, say, something on your credit that's $300, and if you just stop going to Starbucks this week, you could, in fact, pay it off. And if you don't have the whole $300, send $50. And that was one of the things that I had to come to grips with, is that, I owe this person, and it was a lot of medical bills. May I add, it was a lot of medical bills. So a lot of things wasn't really revolving credit or lines of credit. It was more medical bills for me personally. But there were times when I had an additional $50, $60 just sitting around. And there was times where I would just run to the post office. I'm like, let me run to the post office and get a money order. And every time I would run back past the post office, I'll say, let me go ahead and get a money order and send something off. At least I know they're not going to not cash a $20 check. They're going to do it. I never forget this one lady. She called me and she was very mean. She was hostile, and she was like, Miss Thompson, you need to make sure you pay this. And I thought about it, and I was like, you know what? I really don't have. At the time, it was $5,000. It was Washington Hospital Center. And I said, you know what? I don't have it. And she says, well, what do you have? And I just kind of jokingly said $50. And she was like, okay, we'll take it. And it went from $5,000, and then every month I would add an additional $100. And then it got easier. And I was like, and I got to a point where I began to call myself the debt terminator, because I believed that it was time for me to terminate debt, because I believed that debt was stealing my financial freedom, because it was adding stress to my life. It was adding just things that I did not need. And nobody likes to be under pressure. No one likes to be stressed out about bills. But there's something we can do about it. And a lot of times we just throw our hands up. We stop answering the phone. and we just surrender to the debt cycle when we can fight, even if it's just a little bit at a time. So let me give you some tips before we end. First, one of the tips that I recommend is that once you define where you are and you've located the amount of money that you have, say you have $7,000 worth of debt. Well, it may not be one bill or one collector, it may be several. So you're going to try to pick out which one, right? You're going to pick out, okay, who do I owe the least amount of money to? And that's the first person that you pay. Once you've paid the one that's, I don't know, $100, you go to the next one. And then you go to the $300 one. Then you move up versus say, oh, I'll attack the biggest one. No, let's attack the smallest one. And then every day you're eliminating something. So like I said earlier, you have these high volume sales, or you have your every 2-week pay period where each check, say you get $2,000. Now that you have you have $100 less, now that's more money you can keep in your pocket. That's more money that you can use that extra $100 to pay something else off. And once you've paid it off and you don't have any expenses, then that $2,000 can be spent totally different. Another thing is I went on a spending fast, and I want you to type in the comment section, spending fast. Not spending real fast, but spending fast, meaning that I'm not going to spend anything outside of my necessities. And begin to write down what your necessities are. What is a necessity? Is it your food? Is it your water? And I'm not talking about food as in I'm going to go over here and stop at Red Lobster's and I'm going to go and get a takeout that's $30. That you can go and take $30 and go and shop the cheapest grocery store and purchase your lunch for the week. Stop wasting money and draining money in things that we don't need. And for me, in order for me to pay off the $50,000, I had to starve myself. That's how I felt. I felt like, there were days when my girlfriends would say, ride to the mall with me. And I just couldn't go. That was just not an activity that I participated in because I was on a mission. And so when your mission is debt freedom and your goal in 2018 is to say bye-bye debt and hello financial freedom, bye-bye debt, hello to my new location, or bye-bye debt or downsizing. And sometimes we are afraid to downsize. One of the things that I did was I downsized. I downsized my living in order to increase what I could give away. What I could give away. When I say I downsize in so many ways. My expectation for my dining experience changed. At one point I was going to Morton's. I was going to 5-star restaurants. I had to fall in love with IHOP. I had to fall in love because really when we go out to dinner, we're going to socialize. Yes, I love nice restaurants, but if I could find a restaurant that was kids eat free, I would go there. I remember Chick-fil-A, a lot of times they would have kids eat free on Tuesdays. And so that was our night out to do things. We chose Tuesdays because Tuesdays there were deals and specials. So it wasn't that I was going to eat there forever. It wasn't that would be our only, day out with the family, but it just worked because we would buy a meal. My husband and I would buy a meal, and we would take our kids, and they could play. They had a little, park and whatever, indoor swings and all kinds of things like that. So we still had fun. We didn't break the bank, and so you don't have to break the bank to have fun. There's bowling nights and just so many things that you can do to have fun. And another thing that we did was we started going to festivals because it's free entertainment. A lot of times we would go to the park, we would walk around, we would go fishing. We found inexpensive ways to have fun and not break the bank. And so in rehabbing your credit, you're going to have to do something different. I love when I hear of couples who say, you know what, I'm going to minimize. And while everyone else is on the quest of maximizing and getting bigger, everybody is on a hunt of, I'm going to get a bigger house and a bigger car and a bigger this and a bigger hat. Meanwhile, the millionaire next door is thinking, what can I minimize in order for me to live out my best dream? And in order to build, and it's okay to have that as a dream. It's okay to have that. Maybe you want to have that exchange that, I have the car that I really actually want. If I decide I wanted a Mercedes, but maybe instead of having a Mercedes and eating out every day and taking your lunch every day, not taking your lunch every day, maybe you can still get the car of your dreams and maybe live smaller. You can have it all, but it's just about what you're willing to do in order to keep it. Now, if I'm just working and hustling and working and hustling and working and hustling and working, and that's the lifestyle that I want to do for the rest of my life, then that's what I'm going to do. But in order to really, really live at that level, 6 figures is just not enough. Now, maybe 10 years, 15 years ago, you can really live, but because of the depreciation of funds or the depreciation of the dollar, now with the Motel 6, they called it Motel 6 because it was $6 to live there. Now, if you go to Motel 6 now, I don't know how much it is, but I'm sure it's not $6. So all of the things that used to cost a certain amount, it costs more. So you have to think about those things. And not just that, but the forced holidays, right? So in January, there's a holiday, right? That it's President's Day is in February. But I'm just sitting here thinking about all of the enticements of holidays. Christmas was just around the corner, and there are people who are still paying off their credit card bill from Christmas. And so you have to make sure that you are monitoring your spending, even when there is social and economic pressure. Because everybody asks you, what did you get for Christmas? What are you going to do for Christmas? What are you going to buy for Christmas? Are you going to cook? Well, every time it snows, are you going to the grocery store? Like every day or every season. Now we have Valentine's Day coming up. Now the pressure of what you're going to buy someone for Valentine's Day. My point in all of this is to say, do not let the economic or the social climate to get you off your spending fast. If you say that I want to be debt free, you're going to have to own it. You're going to have to become on full beast mode in order to manifest that reality. One of the things that I did was I cut off cable. Now, I have been cable free for about 5 years, and I don't feel like I missed anything. Maybe some shows, but I have a smart TV or whatever, and so I have just internet. I opt to just do internet because for me, I was like, I went 5 years without having cable. So while other people are spending $200 on cable, I decided that why would I spend $200 to watch someone else on TV live their dream and me never live my own dream because I'm too busy paying bills all the time? No, I'm not going to do that anymore. And I decided to take my life and my freedom and take it by the horns. Like I had to take control of it. And sometimes the credit cards are set up for you to swipe. It's almost like, I can swipe my card and swipe my card and swipe my card, and I'm never thinking about anything. But guess what? You live for the weekend, and on Monday, all those transactions hit your account, and you're like, what happened? So weekend money may just need to be cash. Maybe you set a budget for your weekend and say, okay, this weekend, I'm only going to spend $80. And that may just be it. But in order to live your full potential and your dream, there's moments where you have to go down in order to go up. And I just posted about it. I said, while other people were spending, I was saving. I wasn't going to the movies. I just had to catch it whenever it came out on regular TV. That's just where I was. And whatever you're willing to do to make, to be able to invest, to, have a savings account, to be able to maybe take a vacation, to be able to take time off, to be able to go to the dentist and get proper dental work, like whatever that thing is that you want to do, you're going to have to do what it takes and be willing to do whatever you have to do in order to dump the debt so that you can live the life of your dreams. The life of your dreams is possible. It is possible to live debt free. It is possible to live in your dream house, but you don't want your dream house to be your nightmare house because your house broke. So you want to make sure that everything that we do, that we are doing it in order, that we set a strong foundation. So that means minimizing things that we do not need. If that means that we have to disconnect from the friends that tell you you only live once, yellow, you only live once. Yes, you only live once, but you have to think about what you do when you're young is going to determine how you live when you're older. Do you want to be that person who has to work at Walmart when you retire? No. You want to be the person who, when you retire, I can take a vacation. I can buy myself something every now and then. You don't want to live on a limited budget, and you don't have to. So think about it now, and your older self will thank your younger self. And so today, that was my whole entire motive today, is to share with you, how to dream and really live your life according to purpose. And so next week, we're going to switch gears, and I'm going to have guests all throughout February. But January for me was just to really set a foundation for Coach Kellie Speak Show, and to share the direction. And I wanted to do a show alone. I know it's like a monologue show the way it's going, but I wanted to pour into my audience like never before. I love you guys. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Coach Kellie Speaks. Also Facebook, Unique Kel. And check out my website. And if you have any questions or concerns, we can continue the conversation. You can just keep going on there and post some of your questions, and I'll see you guys next week. I love you. All right, guys. Bye-bye. See you next week, everybody.